The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Revelation chapter 11, verse 14. Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahushai, Bahasham, Ruach HaKodesh. Double honors to our venerable apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well, and peace and blessings to the Lord's elect, the house of David. All right, so Brother Aharon coming back at you with another lesson. Lord willing to be edifying and uplifting unto the elect. All right, and I saw a video that my brother did going into basically these the draft. All right, and a lot of these so-called modern day effeminate males, all right, are basically backing out and making excuses, all right, so that they don't get so-called drafted. All right, and that's a biblical prophecy as well, I believe, in the book of Jeremiah. Let's see if we can get that real quick. Let's see. All right, it's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 51, and verse 30. It says, "The mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds. Their might have failed. They became as women. They have burned their her dwelling places. Her bars are broken." Okay, so these so-called what will be considered mighty men, which are the men of the military and so on and so forth. When you look at times past, all right, there's a sense and a spirit of nationalism. Okay, a spirit of standing up and fighting for your so-called country. At the behest of these elites. Okay, they deceived a lot of people, all right, into making them believe that they're going to war to fight for so-called freedoms. Whatever that means, we don't know. But again, that's what the so-called military man of America today, all right, swear in, thinking that they're fighting for the freedoms and liberties of America, which doesn't make sense, but they do it, right, because they're under a spell. Okay, but the prophecy here is saying that the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. So those so-called military recruitment, all right, when you look at and I have it here, the number of active duty U.S. military personnel has fallen over 37% since 1980. Okay, and then you see it from 3 million. There was a time where they were all the way up to 3 million civilians and 2 million active duty members, all right, or personnel, I should say, all right, back in the 80s. That number has been shrinking over the decades all the way to 2022, 2023. Okay, from 2 million or so active duty people. Now you got what is it here? It's right under 2 million. Actually, a lot more under 2 million, 1 point something. Okay. And then you have the civilians, which is a few thousand. All right, a few thousand. Let's see. Right, as of September 2023, reported active duty troops included 453,551 in the Army, 332,322 in the Navy, 318,698,000 in the Air Force, and 172,577 in the Marine Corps. And then you have 8,879 people in the Space Force. Okay. Active duty military figures have fallen, 64.3%. So what we're reading earlier was just a glimpse. It's a cute little glimpse. Right. Active duty military figures have fallen 64.3%. That's the mighty men of Babylon have forborne to fight. They have remained in their holds, meaning they don't want to come out. So what's going to have to bring them out is the spirit of war. All right. But even that is going to be another deceptive tactic that the so-called American leaders are going to use to bring the people out into war. Something known as a Selective Service Act. All right. Which we're going to get into. Okay. But going back to this here. All right. It tells you in Jeremiah that they have remained in their holds. Their might have failed. Okay, so going back to what we're reading, the active duty military figures have fallen 64.3%. from their peak during the Vietnam War in 1968, leveling off until troop size dropped again in 1991 following the end of the Cold War. Okay? Since then, troop levels have remained relatively stable, even during U.S. conflicts in Afghanistan in 2001 and Iraq in 2003. All right, and then you have the numbers. All right, wow, it's crazy, man. All right, but again, that's the prophecy, all right, being fulfilled as we speak. Okay, going back to Jeremiah 51 and 30, it says that their might have failed, they became as women, and it's quite literal. All right, you have women in the military right now, something that didn't happen back in World War I, and even in World War II, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, but now you have, women in the military, and then you got men who are quite literally, transformed into women. Some men who are acting, like it tells you in the Greek word, malakas, right? Which means effeminate. Okay, a lot of these men have become like women. Okay, as it tells you in the prophecy we just read in Jeremiah 51 and 30. It says they have burned their dwelling places, her bars are broken. Okay, so let's read a little bit about the Selective Service Act of 1917, or otherwise known as the Selective Draft Act. Okay, because that's what you're going to hear, whether it be Biden or Trump or whoever is going to be in power very soon. Okay, you're going to hear them tell you that they're going to invoke the Selective Service Act. Okay, that's when you're going to have all these people getting drafted. Okay, so let's read a little bit about it real quick. It says, this was enacted May 18, 1917, authorized the United States federal government to raise a national army for service in World War I through conscription. All right, and that was, that again, all these wars that have happened were designed to bring out a certain outcome, though it's fulfilling prophecy. But on the secular aspect, you have so-called secret societies who have a major influence on the direction in which the world goes into. All right. And all the two past wars, all right, that have happened, they led to these, the Talmudists having the land of Israel today. Okay. It all led to that. That was the main reason why they started the World War I, World War II, and now they're about to go into World War III. Okay. It's all about these. When you look at the common denominator, the main character, all right, in these orchestrations of these major conflicts, you got the Jays who are in the mix of it, controlling both sides. Okay, so that the outcome works on their behalf and in their favor. Okay, against everybody else. Yeah, they'll stab you in the back, they'll turn on you, they'll make deals with you, and then turn around and then burn you for that. Like, that's what they do. Okay, and it's all coming out. Ultimately, they're gonna lead. It's all leading to their own destruction. Okay, by way of thermonuclear fire when America gets completely destroyed very soon. Okay, but this war that's coming, all right, World War III, okay, is all prophesied to happen. All right, and a lot of people are going to be drafted for this so-called war. All right, it says it was envisioned, going back to the article, it was envisioned in December 1916 and brought to President Woodrow Wilson's attention shortly after the break in relations with Germany in February 1917. And we're going to read a little bit about that as well, that how they put that scheme together, how America ended up in World War I. We're going to read about that. It says the act itself was drafted by then Captain, later Brigadier General Hugh S. Johnson after the United States entered World War I by declaring war on Germany. The act was canceled with the end of the war on November 11, 1918. The act was upheld as constitutional by the United States Supreme Court in 1918. The origins of the Selective Service Act says, at the time of World War I, the U.S. Army was small compared with the mobilized armies of the European powers. As late as 1914, the regular army had under 100,000 men, while the National Guard numbered around 115,000. The National Defense Act of 1916 authorized the growth of the army to 165,000 and the National Guard to 450,000 by 1921. But by 1917, the army had only expanded to around 121,000 with the National Guard numbering 181,000. In 1916, it had become clear that any participation by the United States in the conflict in Europe would require a far larger army. While President Wilson at first wished to use only volunteer troops, it soon became clear that this would be impossible. When war was declared, Wilson asked for the army to increase to a force of 1 million. But by 6 weeks after war was declared, only 73,000 men had volunteered for service. Wilson accepted the recommendation of Secretary of War Newton D. Baker for a draft. There you have it. Okay, there you have it. So that's how it all came about. And to persuade uninterested populace or an uninterested populace to support the war and the draft, because originally the people were like, we ain't trying to go into all this, right? Congress had to be convinced that yes, indeed, there was a need for America to join the war, hence the preparations that led to it, okay, which the draft became a part of it, right? So it says to persuade an uninterested populace to support the war and the draft, George Creel, spelled Creel, right, a veteran of the newspaper industry, and I bet you he worked for the Jays, if he's not a Jay himself, okay, because anyone who is in that industry of public opinion was controlled by the Jays till today. Okay, media, right? Everything, every aspect of media is controlled by them to the minutest detail. Okay, so if they don't want you to see something, you're not going to see it. If they don't want you to hear something, you're not going to hear it, right? Unless if you're of the elect, then the Lord, directs you to hearing this truth, this word, because Yahushua said, "My sheep heareth my voice, and they do what? They do follow me." Right, so every last one of us who heard this word, what do? We followed the voice that we heard. Okay, Lord willing, we're going to see him physically, and he's going to come deliver us. Right, Yahushua himself. Right, so let's go back to this. It says, Mr. George Creel, right, a veteran of the newspaper industry, became the United States official war propagandist. Right, it says he set up the Committee on Public Information, which recruited 75,000 speakers who made 750,000 4-minute speeches in 5,000 cities and towns across America. All to do what? To convince people that they need to join the war. Creel later helped form the American Alliance for Labor and Democracy. Yo, Esau, bro. Oh, man. American Alliance for Labor and Democracy. Ugh. Sounds disgusting. That sounds like some forced slavery right there. Labor and democracy. It says, with union leader Samuel Gompers as president, a win working class support. It says to win working class support for the war and unify sentiment in the nation. The AALD, which is the American Alliance for Labor and Democracy, had branches in 164 cities, and many labor leaders went along through rank and file working class support for the war remained lukewarm, and the campaign was ultimately unsuccessful. Many prominent socialist leaders became pro-war, though the majority did not. Okay, and let me see. Right, so let's read a little bit about how this all came about. Again, remember, just like I said before, that all two of the wars, actually, when you read the letter that this guy's Mason Albert Pike, Albert Pike had wrote to his so-called friend or colleague or whoever the hell he was, Giuseppe Mazzini. Okay, he talked about all the three world wars that they're gonna create or foment in order to bring about and fully establish their so-called New World Order. Right, and he goes in detail. You can look it up. I'm sure it's still probably on Google. Right, you can look it up and read about it. How they're going to bring about the First World War, and read the history of World War I and see exactly how it came to play. Right, who was the bad guy, who was the good guy, and why was was this person labeled a bad guy? It'll make you, understand, what's going on right now much better, right? That these people are behind the same shit, you know? So, Albert Pike kind of details World War One, how it's going to come about, World War Two, how it's going to come about, and World War Three, how it's going to come about. And World War Three is highlighted as him saying that the Talmudist Zionists and the so-called Islam Muslim world, they'll have a clash. Okay, and what are you seeing today in the so-called what is known as Middle East? All right, which is Western Asia. All right, you're seeing that come to pass, which is biblical prophecy. Okay, we read that in Revelation, the 11th chapter, the 14th verse, that what the first two woes have passed, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. So we're in those days, all right, of World War III. All right, and that means that we're in the days of the MOTB becoming unveiled and made mandatory upon the face of the earth. Okay, it's just a matter of time. You're seeing them doing it in different countries right now as we speak. Okay, so very soon you're going to see your average cities look just like what you have out there in Sweden. Okay, where so-called microchip is what they use in their daily activities, and people are just on board with it. But here in America, it's going to be forced. All right, because the children of Israel are here in America. All right, for the most part, right? So let's read a little bit about how America got involved in this. So it says the United States declared war against Germany on April 6, 1917. On April 2nd, 1917, President Woodrow Wilson, that we just read about, addressed both houses of Congress and pleaded with them to declare war against Germany. President Wilson's appeal to Congress to declare war against Germany in fact was primarily President Wilson's liquidation of his obligation to his blackmailers. And that's another thing that we don't really have to get into. All right, but again, Wilson was being blackmailed into a lot of things that they did. A lot of these so-called presidents all go through that, right? In order to have a prominent position in society, you do certain things, and those things are always held above your head. Hey, if you fall out of line, we gonna expose you. We're gonna expose you to the world because we create you. So whatever image you have right now was created for the public, right? So we can just expose you for who you really are, and guess what? It takes away all that preciousness that you think you have with the public, and that's how they deal. Okay, all these celebrities, they all go through that, and the Lord is going to expose every last one of them. All right. So continuing, it says, the following incontestable facts confirm that conclusion beyond all question of any doubt. President Wilson had trembled as he read his address. The members of Congress present had no reason to suspect why President Wilson's hand trembled. By the time the grassroots population finished, we're going to skip that. It says, by the time President Wilson finished reading his appeal to Congress, many of his listeners were in tears, but not for the reason the grassroots population of the United States today will be in tears when they finish reading this manuscript. When President Wilson asked Congress to declare war against Germany, President Wilson was in fact conspiring to pay the debt he obligated himself to pay to the Zionists, right? Which again, like I said, it's another topic for another day. All right. So continuing, it says, Congress only declared war against Germany because President Wilson informed Congress that a German submarine had sunk the SS Sussex in the English Channel in violation of international law, and that the United States citizens aboard the SS Sussex had perished with the ship. After General Pershing's troops were fighting in Europe, the hoax was exposed, right? Just like every lie that these devils have told in order to gain the control they have today is being exposed by this truth. It tells you that in the book of 2nd Ezra. Let's see if we can get that. Okay, I believe it's 2nd Ezra, the 6th chapter. Let's see. Let's go down to the 27th verse. Beautiful. God, this is the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 6, And verse 27, it says, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched." All right, and that's synonymous with Second Thessalonians, the second chapter, going into the man of sin being revealed. Okay, Isaiah 14, "Is this the man that weakeneth the nations?" Okay, Isaiah 47, the Lord said He's going to uncover, all right, thy locks and make thy thigh bare. Okay, so Esau is being exposed on all levels, on all fronts. All right, as the man of sin, the man who is pushing all the evil upon the face of the earth, the physical manifestation of the spiritual demon Satan. Okay, everybody knows that now. So there's nowhere to hide, right? So for evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched. All right, this truth is the one that's quenching. All right, let's get that. Second Thessalonians. See if I can pull that real quick. This is the book of Second Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 8. It says, "Then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth." Right? By whom? By the prophets. Okay? The true prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, starting from my elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down. And it's very evident. You don't need to look any further, all right, or look too deep into it. Just watch the videos and listen. All right? Listen to the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai flow through our heads, our leaders, okay, our spiritual fathers, all right, and really the fathers of Israel, all right, the nation as a whole right now as it stands, okay, and that's all through the Spirit if you can receive it, all right. So it says, going back to 2 Thessalonians 2 and 8, it says, "And shall destroy with the brightness of his coming." And who's that brightness of his coming? That's Yahushai, okay. Let me see if I can get that. The bright star. There you go. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 22 and verse 16. It says, "I, Yahushua, have sent my angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star." Okay, so going back to tie it into Second Thessalonians, the second chapter, the 8th verse, right? The Lord said, the Apostle Paul, all right, said that, and then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, okay, the prophets, right, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. That's who? Yahushai, the bright and morning star. Okay, so going back to Second Ezra, all right, 6 and 27, "For evil shall be put out, and deceit shall be quenched," and that's what we're doing, right? "As for faith, it shall flourish by way of this truth." Okay, the watering of this truth has increased faith in Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua on the face of the earth through the elect, all right, or I should say, beginning with the elect of the nation of Israel. All right, "It shall flourish, corruption shall be overcome," all right, Esau, Edom, and his kingdom, all right, "and the truth which hath been so long without fruit shall be declared." Okay, so the Israelites were, all right, the truth, which is who are the Israelites, has been hidden for thousands of years. Okay, but now through the prophets of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, starting from my elders and apostles of Great Millstone on down, like we always say, all right, and their elders before them, all the way up to Rabbi Abba Bivens. Okay, the truth which hath been so long without fruit has been declared. Okay, and to the point where I saw a Pastor's video, I think today, all right, they were showing that so-called hate groups in America or some shit, right? And they had all these other different mixtures of different bullshit that they got, and then they got IUIC on there, and then they got Great Millstone on there. Okay, so that's going to show you that it's that the truth has been declared, just like Yahushua said, right? This truth, the truth of the kingdom of heaven, shall be declared throughout the whole entire earth, or preached throughout the whole entire earth, and then the end shall come. Okay, so we're definitely living in the end times, man. All right, all these things are being fulfilled, all right, on a daily basis. All right. So going back to let's finish off with what happened with Woodrow Wilson getting America into World War I. All right, it says the alleged sinking of the SS Sussex was used as the pretext to justify a declaration of war against Germany by the United States. So could we see something similar happen here again on the third time with Iran, Israel? Again, prophecy says that what the least of the flock shall draw them out. And we're starting to see the steps that leads to the ultimate clash between Babylon the Great, all right, and Russia and his contemporaries. Okay, ultimately NATO turning on America Babylon the Great and burning her flesh with fire. Okay, Revelation 18. All right. So let's finish. It says, the Sussex or the SS Sussex had not been sunk, and no United States citizen had lost their lives. The United States was now at war in Europe as Great Britain's ally. See, so World War I was founded, or America's entering into World War I was founded on a lie, and you have all these people that died off of a lie, and they're gonna try that shit again. Okay, they're gonna try that shit again. All right, whatever narrative they're gonna push to bring this whole thing crashing down, well, it's gonna be exposed regardless. Okay, now going back to World War I, going into the whole draft situation, of course you had Jake that was in there because World War I is also spoken of in the Book of Revelation. All right, the Book of Revelation, the 9th chapter. All right, right about all the way to the 12th verse. Okay, it goes into World War I. All right, explains the whole entire thing. Lord willing, Spirit jump on me. I'll go into it and do a breakdown on that. But World War I already happened. But before it happened, it was written of. Right, the Lord gave that vision to John the Apostle. Okay, so let's read a little bit about what happened to Jake. Okay, during World War I. All right, it says the American military was entirely segregated at the time of World War I. While the army had several regiments of black buffalo soldiers, right? One day we might touch on that as well. All right, many politicians such as Senator James K. Vardaman, Mississippi, and Senator Benjamin Tillman, South Carolina, staunchly opposed any expanded military role for black Americans. All right, I'm going to read it verbatim. It says, nevertheless, the War Department decided to include black people in the draft. A total of 2,290,527 black Americans were ultimately registered for the draft during the two calls of June 2nd and September 12, 1917. Right? And America entered into the war in April of 1917. Okay? So let's keep going. So it makes sense from April, you got May, you got June, right? And then all the way down to September later that year. Okay, it says 9.6%. So June 2nd and September 12, 1917, 9.6% of the total American pool for potential conscription were so-called African Americans, which are, as the so-called Negroes, which are the actual Judah. All right, the tribe of Judah from the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, the head tribe. All right. It says draft board officials were told to tear off the lower left-hand corner of the selective service form of a black registrant, indicating his designation and for segregated units. All right, now just think about this. I can only imagine, at that time, the way Jake was moving to join the military after all these things, you had to have a different type of spirit and a different heart. Okay? After everything you've been through, all right, you still fought with the oppressor. All right? For whatever reason. But you know what? At that time, Jake was highly spiritual as well. Okay? The men who were put in this type of situation, all right, some of those men are back here again. Okay? And that one thing that they always kept, all right, dear to their heart was Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai. They might not have called him by that name, okay, but they definitely had the spirit and prayed. Okay, imagine you being in them days, man, and they segregating you and all that, and you still got to go to war. You're leaving your family behind and everything, right? You're going to throw up some prayers, man. And Jake was, put together back then, low key. You look at those videos and pictures of them times. You had Jake dressed differently, all the way up to the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. Jake was dressed very well. And after the 80s on up, yeah, it's been what you see now. A build up to it, at least. Right? But yeah, so, just prayer. Jake was definitely praying, man. They get together, they probably sitting there, and they show you in the movies all the time. You had that one Jake, that's, he kept his Bible with him. Those men, that was also spoken of in the book of Revelation, right? So we're going to get that. It says draft board officials were told to tear off the lower left-hand corner of the Selective service form of a black registrant, indicating his designation for segregated units. That's crazy. The August 1917 Houston riot, when armed black soldiers fired upon Houston police and civilians, they got shook. And that's one thing they don't want to ever happen again. Especially Jake now. Whoa. That's why the propaganda and the BS bullshit so-called black culture is running rampant, because they don't want Jake in their right mind. Right? So continuing, it says, also affected the war. So when the so-called armed black soldiers fired upon Houston police and civilians, also affected the War Department's decision making. The great majority of so-called black soldiers were employed only in labor functions, such as road building and freight handling. Only 2 black combat units were ultimately established, the 92nd and 93rd Infantry Divisions. Black Americans were entirely excluded from the United States Marine Corps and were consigned to menial labor in the United States Navy for the duration of the war. Okay, but you had Jake, again, like I said, Jake that was in there, right? And giving you that example of that movie that you watch where you have that one character that, got drafted during the time of segregation, and, they were practicing, hate towards him, treating him, like he ain't shit, but he never retaliated, because he was a good Christian man, he had a good heart. He prayed. He kept everything, according to the ways of the Heavenly Father to the best of his ability during those times, right? The Lord definitely had a protection over those men, definitely, just like today. Again, like I said, you got a lot of brothers who were in the military, okay? They were serving in the military, you're going to war, being on the battlefield, and so on and so forth, and Yahweh Hashem Yahushai, protected them so they can come and do this work to serve him, okay? So let's go there. Let's get this real quick. There's a book of Revelation chapter 9 and verse 4. It says, and it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. Okay? So the men who were at war, a lot of them, I don't know exactly how many people died, all right, in the American Army during World War I, or whatever the case may be, all right, even as a whole, right, whatever countries that were involved in World War I, how many casualties, right, from their military people. But the Lord said he put a spirit out, all right, to make sure, to give a command that those men who had the seal of God, right, in their foreheads would be what? Protected. Okay, they're not going to get hit with the destruction, except for those who didn't have the seal. If they didn't have the seal, they were going to get cooked. So a lot of those men who died in the war, all right, they didn't have the seal. But those who made it, the Jakes that made it out, they had the seal, okay, of the Most High in their foreheads. All right, spiritually, like I said, the same thing we do today, right? We pray to the Most High to keep us, protected, shelter us, provide for us. He does. No matter what your situation or your circumstances may be, all right, in this lifetime, guess what? Yahweh Bashem Yahshua always protected you all the way up to now that you know him, because he always knew you, right? So, again, just want to bring that out real quick as to how the so-called draft became a thing, okay? The events that led to it, all right, and how it was prophesied in the scriptures, all right, of World War One actually coming to pass. All right, and how certain men who were serving their time out there, the Lord had a protection over them, so they were protected. All right, they had that seal of God in their foreheads. Okay, but Lord willing, let me see something. Lord willing, we'll touch base on a little bit more information. Probably go into World War II as well. But I'll look into through the Spirit. Throughout this week, do a nice breakdown of Revelation, the 9th chapter as well. Through the Spirit. All right. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it off there. I'm gonna close it out by giving all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rachak Kodash. Lord willing, your brothers and sisters were edified and informed. And until next time, Shalom. Yahweh Shem Yahshua Brakatam. Shalom.